All right, what's going on, guys? Back again. I know it's been a minute. Last video was post college football playoff national championship full first round mock. Back today with another full first round mock draft video. So we're picking for all teams except for obviously the Panthers, the Browns, and I think it's just those two teams that don't have a first round pick this year. Yeah, Panthers, Browns. So I'm excited to get to it. And yeah, let me go ahead and start the draft or enter the draft. We're on a new website today. We're on PFF, Pro Football Focus. Shout out to them, except for their made up stats that help Myles Garrett win Defensive Player of the Year. So I do have their little thing now, so I can look at player grades and stuff like that. For example, there's Caleb Williams. I'll move my camera just a little bit. It shouldn't move on the recording. But I'm gonna move myself over here at the other corner of my screen from where I usually am. So yeah. Before we get this started, I'm gonna trade with Chicago. But just some things. Season is over. Super Bowl is last night. Chiefs beat the 49ers 25-22 in overtime. Really good game. So yeah. Free agency starts. Gosh, I can't remember the exact date. But sometime in March. So again, all of my mock drafts that are currently happening are based off of pre-free agency and re-signing players. So if a player is a free agent at a position, I'm going to say that they might need that position as of right now. For example, the Vikings. Kirk Cousins is a free agent. Jared Hall should not be your quarterback next year. The Vikings do need a quarterback as of right now. I'm not saying necessarily that's where I'm going to go with their pick. I'm not sure if that's where I'm going to go with their pick. It could be. I don't know yet. But that's it. All right. So the plan is from now on, now that the season is over, one video every week. I'm going to be doing some first round mocks, obviously. And again, I think I said it in the last video. It's too hard to do a first round mock every single week. There's not enough. There is enough options to do, but I'm not trying to get super unrealistic. So the plan is, probably a first round mock and then maybe like 2 or 3 weeks of like 7-round mock drafts for teams. There'll probably be some teams I don't get to, so there'll probably be some group videos where I do, 2 or 3 teams doing a 7-round mock draft in one video. Like last year, I did, I think, like the whole entire NFC West at once. I remember, I think when the Packers traded Aaron Rodgers to the Jets, I did the Packers Jets one, stuff like that. All right, so let's get into it. And speaking of quarterbacks getting traded, I am in a different position of where I was last time. I am on the Caleb Williams at 1 to the Bears train. So in that scenario, Justin Fields is out of Chicago. I'm going to make the trade just so you can look at those teams like needs differently, I guess. So the team that is going to come up is actually the team that in my last video traded up to number 1. It's the Atlanta Falcons. They'll be trading for Justin Fields. I think I kind of took this package, not this exact package, I don't think he had, but I saw it on that franchise guy is his YouTube video, and I like the package. I think his was pick 43 and a future 4th. I'm gonna pick 43, pick 109 to Chicago for Justin Fields. And then that would lead to Caleb Williams being drafted at number 1 by the Chicago Bears. I think Caleb Williams is just the best player in this draft, and I'm not going to necessarily say I don't think it's close, but I think that at the end of the day, he could end up being easily the best player in the draft. I think this was the same. I don't remember the exact picks I made in my last video, so you might hear me say I think I made this pick, and I might not have. But I'm pretty sure this was the one I made. No, it wasn't. Was it? I went offensive tackle here, didn't I? I think I did. I'm going Drake May at 2 to the Washington Commanders. I think it makes a lot of sense. The Commanders are one of the teams I think that needs a lot of players right now in various positions. But I think Drake May makes the most sense at 2. I do still think there's an argument if they wanted to go offensive line, though, for how bad their offensive line was last year. But in that case, I would think it would be a trade out spot. I think they would trade out. Somebody would come up to and take Drake May. And then Jaden Daniels fell to 3, or not to 3, to 10 last time on my draft, and I took him to the Jets on some interesting, an interesting choice that I made. With that one, I thought that was fun. But I am having him go here at 3. I think it's way more of a possibility now with a bunch of things I'm seeing like around the league. Just with guys that are higher up than me, obviously. Guys like Daniel Jeremiah, Dane Brugler, all of these guys. I think 3 is going to be Jaden Daniels. Now the question is who's going to take him at 3. New England definitely in play. But I'm gonna make an interesting trade here. I was playing around, with the simulator the other night, and seeing. I like to play around with the simulator and see the possibilities, and the possibilities in this are endless. But try to also be realistic. Now I'm not sure what the exact package here would be. But I'm gonna do a little something like this. A very, very interesting trade. Daniel Jones and 6 for number 3. So Daniel Jones would be the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots next year. And the Giants are going to come up and they are going to take Jaden Daniels at number 3. Now, like I said, I'm not sure that trade would be close to being done in real life, but simulator puts it through. I trust the simulator a little bit. Arizona, I think this happened last draft. I think last draft I went Falcons trade up, get Caleb. I think I went offensive tackle here, and I think I went Drake May here to New England. And Arizona being here at 4, again, just is sitting in one of the best positions possible as of right now. Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4 to Arizona. It is such a great pick for them. I think that if you can get Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4, you hit a grand slam in this draft. Now, Arizona, if I'm correct, looking at my team needs for everybody, I think Arizona is probably the most needy team, in my opinion, for this draft. Now, obviously, there's still free agency to go and all of that. But I think they're a team that I'm gonna probably do a 7-round mock draft on. They might even be the team I do a 7-round mock draft on next week. I might do an updated Steelers one next week and then do Arizona, but I'm not sure yet. But Arizona needs a lot, especially on defense. Chargers here at 5. I did it last time as Brock Bowers. I'm going to do it again, but let me explain myself. They just hired Greg Roman, who is known to use his tight end a lot, and loves to go to the tight end. I do still think receivers in play here, especially with Malik Neighbors and Roma Dunze still being on the board. But it makes a lot of sense for Brock Bowers. However, I think they can trade back and still get him later. I got another trade coming up here, and this one's interesting. So buckle in. It's gonna be the Chicago Bears. Coming up from 9. I'm gonna go 9, and their 2nd-round pick from the Bryce Young trade. These trades, I'm not a trade expert when it comes to draft trades. I'm not 100% sure that would get it done, but that's what I'm going to do just for the sake of the video because we're only doing 1-round mock. I'm going to trade 9 and a future 2nd for number 5. They're going to come up and they're going to get Malik Neighbors out of LSU to pair with Caleb Williams and DJ Moore and Cole Kmet and their running backs and offensive line. I think the Bears would be the Bears. If the Bears did that right there, they're automatically getting at the very least a B+ from me in the draft because of those 2 picks. They could absolutely not hit on any of their picks, in my opinion, for the rest of the draft, and they'd still get at least a B something because of those 2 picks. Very similar to not very similar, but pretty similar to what we saw Houston do last year. They were at 2 and then they had 12. They picked CJ Stroud at 2 and then they come back up immediately to 3 and go and get Will Anderson Jr. I just think it makes a lot of sense for the Bears to do this. And then at 6, it's still not going to be a a defensive player yet. It's going to be another offensive player for New England. It's a guy that I think is in consideration at 3 if they wouldn't go quarterback at 3. Well, not a guy because, well, no. It'd be a position I'd say I'd consider at 3, but it wouldn't be the guy I would pick at 3 because of Marvin Harrison Jr. being in the same position as him and Malik Neighbors. It's going to be Rome Odunze out of Washington here at 6 for the Giants. I mean, not the Giants. Sorry, the Patriots. I was looking at the NYG under the Patriots logo. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think if the Giants are still on the board here at 6, I think it makes a lot of sense too. But their receiving room has been like, a slightly above average. You got guys like Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne. There's so many guys that rotate in and out. Now, Demario Douglas was a really good bright spot. Late round rookie, a guy that if you watched my 7-round mock draft videos last year, a guy that I liked a lot in the 7th round. Demario Douglas out of Liberty had a good year as a rookie this year, but I think they could use another receiver, a true wide receiver 1, in that system. And I think that you go out there and get Rome Odunze. That's a true wide receiver 1 in my opinion. I think it's a really good pick. I think tackle could be in play there. Obviously, at 3, if they stick and pick, I think quarterback is definitely the play there at 3 with Jaden Daniels. But in our scenario, in our world of this mock draft, Daniel Jones is now the quarterback in New England. And so he'll be throwing the ball to Rome Odunze. At 7 with the Titans, I think a receiver is in play if Odunze or Neighbors was to be on the board here. But with both of them being off the board, I think he's out of the question. DB is in play, I think, for Tennessee. But I think offensive line is such a big need still. And Joe Alt being here makes a lot of sense for Tennessee here at 7. Joe Alt has replaced Olu Fashanu as tackle 1 for me, in my opinion, in this draft. But I still think that him, Alt, Fashanu, Fuaga, I think those 3 guys are very close. I think Latham's right behind them. And then you've got, your other guys like Mims, Fatanu, if you want to count him as a tackle, which I'm not. But I know a lot of people are. I can see why, obviously, because he played tackle in college. Guyton, who had a good week at Senior Bowl. There's like Jordan Morgan's a high on a lot of people's boards. But here at 8, Atlanta went out. They got that man Raheem Morris to be their head coach at defensive line. They need a lot of defensive things, including edge. And so I think it's a pick there for him at 8. Raheem Morris is like, hey, let's go get the best defensive player in the draft at a position of need, which is edge. And that's going to be Dallas Turner out of Alabama here at 8 to Arizona, or not Arizona, Atlanta. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I like to pick a lot. Dallas Turner is explosive off the edge. Very explosive, great moves. I think he's just another one of those great Alabama defensive guys to come off early in the board. And then obviously I just talked about it earlier. Greg Roman, big usage of tight ends. Broad Bowers definitely in consideration at 5, but he comes off the board at 9 after the trade back and picking up an extra 2nd-round pick, which I think works in their favor. Broad Bowers is a monster, man, and he's going to be a monster if LA gets him. Pick 10 for the Jets. This is a guy that I think, man, where did I have him going last draft? Probably somewhere in between 15 and 20. Big riser, up to number 10. It's an offensive tackle for the Jets, and it's not Olu Fashanu, even though he's probably my tackle 2 right now. It's going to be Tulise Fuaga out of Oregon State. I saw a lot of people mock this one, and I'm on that train too. I think it makes a lot of sense for New York to go after him, even over guys like Fashanu or if Alt's on the board here. Just absolute, I've said it like probably 18 times now in the 2 videos I made. Absolute mauler in the run game, and his pass blocking isn't bad either. Tulise Fuaga had a great year at Oregon State. His run block grade was a 91, which is great. His pass block grade, like I said, His pass block is not as great as his run block, but an 80 grade on pass block is not bad. Really only had, 2 bad games this year, Washington and Cal. And Washington, obviously a team that went to the national championship. He's a right tackle, has never played a snap anywhere else, but I think that's fine for Tuise Fuaga at 10 to the Jets. At 11, the Minnesota Vikings, I'm going to make a trade. And the trade is going to be the team that, according to the simulator, is not interested in the pick, but we're making the trade anyways. It's the New Orleans Saints sitting there at 14. And let me explain to you why. I'm going to go 14 and a future third to come up to 11, I think makes sense. Yep, trade accepted. 14 and future third to come up to 11 for the Saints. Again, these trades, guys, please do not bash me for the trades. I am not very good at, the trade value and stuff like that. If it accepts it on here, accepts it. Again, it's for the sake of the video. The only time I kind of somewhat still take trades seriously is the 7-round mock drafts. These first 4-round mocks, unless it's being like multiple first-round picks being traded, then I'll take it a little more seriously. But until then, that's what we're doing right now. The Saints come up here at 11, and the reason being is the team sitting there in front of them at 13 was, the Raiders, a team that is, I would say, definitely got to be definitely considering a tackle. They're at 13. Olu Fashanu still being on the board. I think it makes a lot of sense for the Saints to go tackle. I'm trying to think where I went with them in the last draft, and I can't remember exactly. But if it was tackle, it's tackle again. It might have been J.C. Latham last draft, and I'm not 100% sure on that though. But I really like Olu Fashanu there at 12 to New Orleans. I think it makes a lot of sense. Ryan Ramczyk getting older, and all that, and then you kind of need to tackle anyways. At 12 with Denver, I think it makes sense for them to go edge or corner. It depends on how you feel about Cooper DeJean. I do think he can play outside. I even think he could play in like a nickel role, but I really, just because of his like skill set and his like really good run defense, like he had a 78.6 run defense as a corner, outside corner. And his great zone coverage compared to his like average man coverage, I think it makes a lot of sense for him like to move to safety. I really do. So it depends on how you feel about him here at 12. If you're going corner, if you would say he's the guy here. But I think that the Broncos need a true corner, whereas some other teams just need like a DB. Like they just need like Minnesota, Indianapolis, Tennessee, Tampa Bay. Like they just need DBs. Like they just need somebody to play in the secondary. Whereas Denver, I'd say, just needs a true corner. And that's where I think 2 players come into play here. It's Terrion Arnold and Nate Wiggins. And I think based off of schematics in Denver, I think Nate Wiggins makes more sense to put opposite side of Patrick Surtain. I really do. And so with that being said, my pick here at 12 to the Denver Broncos is going to be the cornerback out of Clemson, still my CB1, but a player is gaining up on him, which I'll talk about later. And it's Nate Wiggins out of Clemson, the cornerback. Pick number 13, Las Vegas Raiders. This is my first appearance of a player that was not in my first round last mock draft. This is a guy that I watched film on, and if you're new to my channel, and I don't know if I ever actually even explained this within the past 2 years, I don't have access to all 22 films like a lot of these bigger name YouTubers, like Bengal, what's the NFL Stock Exchange or whatever their name is, the PFF guys, Sycamore and them, that franchise guy. All these guys have all 22 access. I don't have that. I don't have the money for that. I just put in money to get this PFF Plus thing, which was like really something that I don't do because I don't make money off of this. I do it for fun. So I don't have access to all 22. So how I watch film is I just go onto YouTube and I find full length games and I just watch them and I watch these guys go after that. And sometimes I actually like it better than watching all 22. Now, when you're watching a broadcast view of stuff, you can't watch all players. You can't really tell too well on wide receivers, um, um, or quarterbacks or corners. But you can still see most stuff. And I just started watching film, I think last week and a half ago. And I've gotten through 2 games. And the first game I wanted to watch was Washington, Texas, the playoff game. And like I said, this is the guy I'm gonna pick here at 13. If you want to know the other game I watched, it was LSU Bama. But this is the guy that has absolutely flew up my personal big board, and I saw him in this Washington Texas game, and it's a position of need for the Raiders. It's the interior of the defensive line, and call me crazy for taking this guy this early. But he's my new defensive lineman one over John Newton. It's Byron Murphy the second out of Texas, and he's going to be the pick here at 13 for the Raiders. I think this kid is just so good, man, and I'm gonna ride with it until I see him at the combine at the very least. Dude, this kid is like that Washington game. He was balling out. He just he gets pressure in the pass game. He's an absolute run stuffer, and he doesn't give up. He just keeps going every single play, and it's awesome to watch. I encourage you, if you haven't watched Byron Murphy film, or you didn't watch that Washington Texas game, or you did watch it and you don't remember this, go back and watch it and just watch Byron Murphy every single play that he's on the field. I mean, the dude is an absolute monster. 91.5 pass rush grade, an 80.5 run defense grade. I mean, I'm not big on pass rush win rate. I don't know, it's he had 6 sacks, 3 hits, 36 hurries. I'm not too big on the pass rush win rate. There we go thing. But I mean, you look at these games. I mean, absolutely balling out against these Big 12 teams. And really, the only bad game he had per PFF grading was Wyoming. Um, Dude, Byron Murphy is a monster, and I love him so much. And he's going to be the pick there at 13. I think it makes a lot of sense for them to pair a inside guy up with guys like Max Crosby. Malcolm Kuntz had a good year on the outside too, so I think it makes a lot of sense there. And then I think this might be the first time I've ever done this in a video, and it's usually not a thing that happens in real life. But I'm having fun with it, man, and that's the point of these videos, is to have fun with it. At 14 with the Vikings, I'm gonna trade back again after trading back from 11. And the team that's gonna come up this time is gonna be the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'll explain why once I get the pick, the trade through. I'd say 17 for 14. I'd say maybe 17 and 79. That gets the trade done on here again. Bash for the trade value, whatever, if you want to. Go ahead, it don't matter to me. They're gonna come up and they're gonna get the last guy I think that is a true this guy is more than likely going to be a really good tackle for years. And it's JC Latham out of Alabama. He's a really good tackle, man. He really is, and he's huge and he's athletic for his size. And I like it a lot. I think that they need to protect Trevor Lawrence at all costs. And I like to pick there at 14 for the Jaguars. I do have I don't have tackle as their number one need on their team. But I think it's definitely in play there at 14 for the Jaguars. I also like if they stick and pick Brian Thomas Jr. as a sneaky pick at 17 for Jacksonville. At 15 is an interesting pick. I think Kool-Aid McKinstry is a really good sneaky in-play pick here at 15 for the Colts out of Alabama. Chris Ballard loves his high weight, freak, just athletic guys that test really good. And I think Kool-Aid McKinstry is going to be a guy that tests really good. He also loves SEC players. But I think that they need a DB in general. And that's where I was talking about Cooper DeJean earlier. I think Cooper DeJean goes here because I think really they don't need a nickel corner because they have Kenny Moore, yeah, I think that's his name, the nickel corner. But I think they could use an outside corner and or a safety, and I think you could bring Cooper DeJean in, and he could do either one for you. At 16 with the Seahawks, I've got another trade. Here. I know Crazy, crazy, crazy. Um, and this one's a big one. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my phone. The Steelers just cut Mitch Trubisky. Um, I'm gonna trade back to 22. With the Eagles. I'm gonna have the Eagles come up. I think this would garner a little bit more because of the jump. I'd say maybe like how about 54, 22 and 54 for 16 and 81, maybe. Guys, like I said, I'm not good at this trade stuff. I'm gonna keep on saying it for every single trade I make. More trades to come. But with Seattle, not Seattle, Seattle trading back is what I was trying to say, and Philly being on the clock here at 16. I know, guys. I understand. You lost Jason Kelsey. You lost your tackle. Or no, you didn't lose your tackle. My bad. Lane Johnson will be moving on soon. Is probably the case. He's getting older. And I understand that one of my boys, shout out Boston, Eagles fan, loves a tackle here at at 22 with a real pick. But guys, Eagles fans, y'all's secondary was terrible this year. Let's face the facts. Eli Ricks was not a good corner. Keely Ringo, who I was very high on last year, sometimes we miss on guys. Keely Ringo was very highly rated for me last year. Didn't even really get to play a whole lot. James Bradbury had a significant fall off in his production at corner. And then Darius Slay is only getting older. I think corner just makes a ton of sense. And here's why I'm taking another corner here at 16. I actually had a comment on my last video that from an Eagles fan that he didn't want a developmental corner in the first round. I think I took Kamari Lassiter to them. That's fine. I understand, man. But listen, Terrion Arnold is so fluent with his coverage abilities. Terrion Arnold is an absolute monster. And I think it just makes a ton of sense for Seattle at 16. To trade up to 16 and get a guy like Terrion Arnold. Great zone guy. Yes, his man coverage wasn't great, but he also had a guy like Kool-Aid McKinstry opposite side of him, who was considered one of the best cornerbacks in the country too. Terrion Arnold, if you watch him, especially that LSU game, I want to see what he graded in that game. He only graded 67, but dude, there's just one play I remember. And I think it's either on Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas Jr. I can't remember 100%. But he gets his hips turned, and as soon as he turns his hips, the receiver breaks in on like a dig, and Jaden Daniels throws an absolute dart right into the receiver's chest. And somehow, some way, Terrion Arnold got out of getting his hips turned and got to the receiver and just smacks the ball right out. Terrion Arnold is a really good corner. And I think it makes a lot of sense for Philly to come up here at 16 and get Terrion Arnold out of Alabama. 17, the Vikings, after trading back twice, are not going to trade back again, contrary to Steelers wanting to come up here at 17. I wouldn't mind. No, I don't think there's a point for the Steelers come up here at 17. But Minnesota at 17 after waiting a long time. A guy that I did not have in my first round last time. I think this is my second of, let's see, maybe a few guys actually. I don't think I had in my first round last time. I can't remember 100% or not. And remember, I said right at the beginning of the video, this is based off of their current team because of free agency not happening yet. They don't have a quarterback right now. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially in Kevin O'Connell's system, to go get Bo Nix if you don't bring back Kirk Cousins or bring in somebody else. So Bo Nix is going to be the pick at 17 for how much it hurts me to make that pick, just because I don't think Bo Nix should be a first rounder. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think the league is high on Bo Nix too. So I definitely would not be surprised come April 22nd, I think 23rd, I think is when the draft is, somewhere around there. If Bo Nix's name is called on night one. And Minnesota, I think it makes a lot of sense. I really do. A guy that's ready to come in and play immediately. I think it makes a lot of sense. The Bengals here at 18, for how bad I want to try to fit in Jatavian Sanders into the first round, I'm not going to do it. I like Jatavian Sanders as a prospect, as a tight end out of Texas, if you don't know who he is. I do think tackles in play. I just don't know if, like, I don't know, because what we got, like Mims, Guyton, Jordan Morgan left. I don't know if any of those guys really are in play at this spot this early. I think maybe a trade back and you go get one of those guys. I don't think there's a team that I really want to bring up here, just because Johnny Newton out of Illinois, still still being here. I think it makes a lot of sense. We might lose DJ Reader in free agency. Then at that point, you do need an interior guy. I think Johnny Newton out of Illinois makes a lot of sense at 18 for the Bengals. 19, Rams. Get ready. Guess what? Another trade back. And it's a team I mentioned earlier, because they just won the Super Bowl last night for the second year in a row, and they have expandable everything right now. They're going to move 32 and 64 to get all the way up here to 19. And their biggest need, even though they were pretty fine last night, I still think it's a need. Now, Donovan Smith is a free agent, so if they lose him, they would need a tackle, I think. And I think they could also use like an interior defensive lineman, which is a need listed on here. John Newton was still on the board here. I wouldn't be surprised if they come up and get him. But it's going to be a receiver here for me. And it's a guy that I really like a lot. And it's Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU, being the second LSU receiver and third LSU player to go in the top 20 in my draft. And pair him, with Rashee Rice. And then, maybe you keep Martez Valdes-Scantling or Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Mecole Hardman, who had a great game. Well, not a great game, but Mecole Hardman had a impactful game, at least in the Super Bowl last night. And you pair Brian Thomas Jr. with Patrick Mahomes, man. That would be scary for sure. At 20, this is another guy that I did not have in my first round last time. And funny enough, he is from the same school that the last guy I didn't have in my first round last time is from, which is Oregon. It's a guy that had an amazing week last week at the Senior Bowl. And I think as a Steelers fan, our biggest need is definitely our center position. It's going to be Jackson Powers Johnson. It's a guy that I was hoping maybe we could get at 52. Not 52. What pick do we have? Or do we have 52? Whatever our second round number is, I think it's pick 52. I was big on Cedric Van Pran when I did our 7-round mock draft. He's fallen a little bit for me. He's actually now my center 3, behind Jackson Powers Johnson and Zach Frazier. But I think that this makes a lot of sense for the Steelers just to go ahead and get this guy at 20, because, dude, he's a beast. And the what's like the word I'm looking for here? Positional value of center is high in today's league because there's not a lot of great centers, and I think he's got the intangibles to be a great center. And I think I just think it makes a ton of sense for us to go get him here at 20, even though it might be a little too early. I do think though tackle and corner is in play there at 20 for us. At 21, it's another trade, guys. It's another trade. I'm sorry if you're getting tired of the trades. This is actually my last trade, I promise. And I'm sorry I keep on looking down. I usually don't like, I usually just go off the dome with this stuff, and I kind of am going off the dome with this. I do have some notes that I'm just looking at with like positional needs and stuff like that. Now Jared Verse and Leatu Latu both being on the board here, I think is like a in play thing for a bunch of teams that need edge to come up and get one of these guys. Quinny Mitchell, Quilly McKinstry, like there's a lot of good players still left on this board. And so the team that I think could come up here and get one of these edge guys is another team that, like I said, they need a lot, but they also need talent. They have a lot of picks in their arsenal though. So I was trying to say. So I'm going to move 27 and 66 to come up to 21. Oh, wow. Trade not accepted. How about 27 and a future third, or is that just like the same thing pretty much? Okay, 27 and a future third for 21. Arizona trades with Miami, comes up to 21, and they get Jared Verse, who I am surprised that him and Leatu Latu are still on the board at this point, but I'm not surprised at the same time. 22 Seattle. Now this is why I traded back is because the guy that I think that they should definitely go after, and I think that they could realistically go after in real life. They could have waited. I think it's kind of the same thing with the Chargers and Brock Bowers. I don't think anybody in between 5 and 9 is probably taking Brock Bowers. And that guy is going to be a guy that's listed as tackle right now, but I think would be an amazing guard in the NFL. Staying in Washington, in Seattle, Troy Fautanu. This might have been their pick last draft for me. I can't remember or not. But watching that Washington Texas game back, watching Troy Fautanu in that system and him, pulling, on run plays and just really everything about him out of that tackle position is a lot. Now there is some things that there's some negative things about him. Sometimes he does try to get upfield too fast and it kind of messes his blocking up. And he can get off balance just a little bit sometimes. And really, and this is why I think he could be a great guard instead of tackle, is sometimes when there's a really explosive guy off the edge, he just kind of gets just beat because they just fly right past him. And in the NFL, you're going to see a lot of those guys off the edge. So I think a transition guard makes a lot of sense for him. He stays in Seattle. Seattle needs a guard. And I think he makes a lot of sense in Seattle, like systematic wise, with his ability to be able to pull, and stuff like that, and them having Kenneth Walker and stuff like that. At 23, another guy I did not have in my first round. Last mock draft. Just kidding. No, it's not. It's another trade, and this is my last trade. I promise. This is my last trade. Houston, I'm only going to move them back 3 picks. And it's going to be Tampa Bay. They're going to come up 26, and 26 and a future third for 29, or sorry, for 23. That doesn't work. How about 89, or is that about the same value? It is. How about 26 and 89 for 23 and 164? Yes, gets it done. Tampa Bay comes up and they get Quinion Mitchell. Quinion Mitchell, I think I had him in my last draft. Great week at the Senior Bowl. Good corner out of Toledo. Scout the player, not the helmet. Quote from Bingle. Probably a quote from somebody else, but I heard Bingle say it all the time. And I think Tampa Bay was one of the teams I was talking about earlier. When I was talking about Cooper Jean early in this. They just need a DB. It's listed as corner, but I think they could use safety too. Especially Antoine Winfield Jr. is a free agent, I think. So if they lose him, they can definitely use the safety. Quinion Mitchell is a great corner, man. He's awesome. I think it's a really good pick for them at 23. 24, Dallas is an interesting team because I think they could use corner. I think Zach Frazier, for how much of a reach it is, which we've seen Dallas reach, I think Zach Frazier, out of the center out of West Virginia, is definitely in play here with Tyler Biadasz being a free agent. He wasn't great last year. They might not bring him back. If they want to go straight BPA, I think Leatu Latu could be in play, even though they don't need edge and they kind of need tackle. I think Amarius Mims or Tyler Guyton or Jordan Morgan could be in play here. But I'm going to go Kool-Aid McKinstry here, cornerback out of Alabama. Comes in, plays opposite side of Trayvon Diggs, so hopefully he'll be healthy next year. And I think it could be a really good, opposite side corner duo right there. At 25, the Packers, I can't remember if this guy was in my first round last draft. Because their needs are, well, let me see. According to PFF, their needs are running back, tackle, D-line, and safety. I have their needs as potential right guard because John Runyon is a free agent if he leaves. Backup quarterback, running back, linebacker depth, and then their secondary in a hole because they have a lot of free agents in their secondary. So I think their whole secondary could be in need. come post free agency time. But I think left tackle is definitely in play here. David Bakhtiari, one, is getting old, two, never plays. So I swear I haven't seen David Bakhtiari play a game in like 5 years. But I think tackle's in play, and this is another guy that had a good week at the Senior Bowl last week. It's Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma. I'm going to show respect to him for having a great week. Comes in. Maybe David Bakhtiari plays one more year. Well, like probably 3 games if he plays one more year. But he can kind of learn behind him and maybe or be a day one. Who knows? Maybe he's a day one there at left tackle. I don't know what side he plays. He played right tackle in college, but I do think that there's a chance that he's really athletic. I think he could easily swing to the other side. Houston. This is probably my biggest reach pick in the whole entire draft, unless you want to say Byron Murphy. But this is definitely, in my opinion, the biggest reach pick because I am kind of high on this guy. But let me explain my pick, and I will give credit where credit is due. I saw Bingle do this in one of his latest mock drafts. I think it was actually his most recent one, and it makes sense. It's going to be a linebacker, and it's going to be Edgerrin Cooper out of Texas A&M. Athletic linebacker. I think linebacker is definitely in play for them. I have the Texans' needs listed as tight end if Dalton Schultz leaves. A rotational running back, which I actually think is their biggest need. DT and edge depth, an inside backer, which they're listed as their second biggest need. And then just some depth in the secondary. So I think linebacker's a big need. D'Amico Ryans was a linebacker himself in the NFL. Also shout out Bingo. I didn't even know that. Bingo said that. He stays in the state of Texas, and I think this D'Amico Ryans would like the idea of bringing in a guy like Edgerrin Cooper into that linebacking room. Wow, when they need a linebacker. Let me take a swig of water real quick because throat's getting kind of dry. And I'll take that as an opportunity to say appreciate y'all if y'all are still watching. And any support that's given, because I love making these videos. And then to round it out here, last few picks, 27 Miami after trading back. I think it's BPA. I don't think there's really any offensive linemen in play here. I have the Dolphins' needs listed as center. One because Connor Williams is a free agent. Left guard, their left guard is also a free agent. I think tight ends definitely in play again. There's just not a tight end that could fit into the first round. Wilkins is a free agent. Christian Wilkins, I think so. Interior defensive lineman could be in play if he was to leave. I think he'll stay though. I think inside backers in play with Jerome Baker also being a free agent. Edge depth, nickel corner, and safety, I think are all in play. I think it's definitely be BPA here. I think the corners that are left are in play. I just don't know how I feel about any of these 3 guys playing nickel when being Tampa, Lassiter, and Rakestraw. So I'm going to go BPA, and it's a guy that I think Mike McDaniel would like a lot to get into the offensive system. It's going to be Troy Franklin out of Oregon. Another guy, I don't think I had him in my first round last time, but I really like the pick. You put him, Jalen Waddle, and Tyreek Hill together in the wide receiver room. Man, that might be the best wide receiver room in the NFL. That's a really good wide receiver room with those 3. I think Troy Franklin's a good player to bring in out of Oregon into Miami and just let him, play football, man. Just let him play football. 28 Bills. I can't remember if I made this one last time. I feel like I did. I think I would say tackle was in play with Mims or Jordan Morgan. I think defensive line is in play again. I just don't think there's any more guys I can fit in here. Chris Jenkins is probably that next guy. Him and Tavondre Sweat for me, and I don't think either of them fit in the first round. And this is based off Gabe Davis being a free agent. You just go get another version of Gabe Davis, pretty much just deep threat, throw it up to him. Keon Coleman out of Florida State, a guy that I was talking about last draft. He's fallen for me, I'm pretty sure. I think I had him going pretty early last draft, but a versatile returner too. So I think he can get after it. Keon Coleman out of Florida State. I like this pick a lot to Buffalo at 28. At 29, the Lions, this is where I'm going to stop the fall. He's just way too talented to fall out of my first round. And it's solely because of his injury history, and I think he's going to fall because of that. But even though they don't necessarily need an edge rusher, dude, Dan Campbell would be foaming at the mouth to get Leatu Latu at 29. Him and Aiden Hutchinson opposite side. Oh my gosh. I know they have other good edge rushers, but man, those two guys off of the edge together, if Leatu Latu can stay healthy, would be absolutely insane. It'd probably be the best edge rush duo in the league if Leatu Latu pans out and is healthy, man. I just love that pick for 29 for Detroit. 30, this is another pick where I feel like I had this last draft and I could definitely just be wrong. I think AD Mitchell makes a ton of sense for Baltimore at 30. 6'4", I think around 200 pounds is what he's listed as on here. 6'4", 196. Just a guy that is he's probably gonna just go up and get the ball for you. He's big bodied, like I said, 6'4". He's not muscular, like he's not, he's only about 200 pounds, which for Keon Coleman, for instance, is 6'4", 215, about 15, 20 pounds less than Keon Coleman. But he can go up and get the ball. His jumping ability to go get the ball is great. I think it makes a lot of sense at 30 for the Ravens with AD Mitchell out of Texas receiver. And because Zay Flowers is potentially in trouble off of the field. So if he's out, you don't have a receiver again. I think receivers even in play, even if Zay Flowers is there. I do think corner and D lines also in play, but again, I just don't know if there are any of those guys that can fit in the first round. Here at 31 for the 49ers, it's another guy that I think I did have him going first round last time, actually. But he's fallen a little bit in a lot of people's rankings. It's Graham Barton out of Duke, and even though I do like Mims Morgan, I like Kingsley Sumatia, how you say it, BYU, better than Graham Barton at tackle, at least. I think Graham Barton can literally play anywhere on the offensive line. Last year, he did play all of his snaps at left tackle. Last 3 years, he's played all of his snaps at left tackle. But there is a lot of talk about how he could play anywhere on the offensive line, including center. And I think that works out for the 49ers because they do need offensive line help somewhere. And I think that's why it makes sense because of his versatility. And let's buckle in this last pick, 32, after trading back from 19, picking up 32 and 64. It's the Los Angeles Rams. The Los Angeles Rams, in my opinion, need a left tackle. They need some inside backers, and they need a corner. However, Matthew Stafford is getting old. And I think we could see a Jordan Love to Aaron Rodgers situation here at 32 with the Rams. The pick here is a guy I did not have in my first round last time. It's going to be J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan. I just think it makes a lot of sense to bring him in. He's going to need development anyways. You bring him in, you let him sit behind Matthew Stafford, who's been one of the best quarterbacks when healthy in the league for the past, 10, 12 years, I think, 10 years at least. I just think it makes a lot of sense to the Rams. I really do. Heir apparent right there. J.J. McCarthy, Rams. So let's recap it real quick. Caleb Williams to the Bears. Drake May to Washington. Daniel Jones traded to New England. New York comes up against Jane Daniels. Marvin Harrison, Arizona. Malik Neighbors after the Bears trade up, get Malik Neighbors at 5. Roma Dunze after that trade with New England at 6. Joe Alt, 7 to Tennessee. Dallas Turner, 8 to Arizona. Brock Bowers after the trade, 9 to the Chargers. Tulise Fuaga. Jets, Fashanu, trade. Saints, Wiggins, Broncos, Byron Murphy. Raiders, J.C. Latham. Jaguars, another trade. Cooper DeJean. Colts, another trade. Taron Arnold to the, not Seahawks, sorry. I'm used to the Seahawks at 16. The Eagles at 16. Bo Nix, after Minnesota traded back twice, new quarterback in Minnesota, throwing to Justin Jefferson. Jerzon Johnny Newton out of Illinois, 18 to the Bengals. Kansas City Super Bowl champions, 2-time reigning, going for the three-peat, comes up from 32 to 19 with the Rams against Brian Thomas Jr. JPJ, number 2, Jackson Powers Johnson to Pittsburgh. That'd be weird because now we'd have Joey Porter Jr., Jackson Powers Johnson, both JPJs. Jared Verse, Arizona comes up 21 against Jared Verse. Seattle after trade back at 22 takes George Montano. Tampa Bay comes up to 23, takes Quinion Mitchell. Kool-Aid McKinstry at 24 to the Cowboys. Tyler Guyton at 25 to the Packers. Adrian Cooper at 26 after they traded back to Houston. Troy Franklin at 27 to Minnesota. Not Minnesota, sorry. Miami. Keon Coleman at 28 to the Bills. Leatu Latu at 29 to the Lions. A.D. Mitchell at 30 to the Ravens. Graham Barton at 31 to the 49ers. And after the trade back, J.J. McCarthy at 32 to the Rams. Again, appreciate y'all's support. If there is any support, I love it. I appreciate it. It makes me want to keep doing this, even though I do it for fun. The support and everything isn't additive to it, right? It's just helping me want to do it more. Even though I still want to do it anyways, because I love doing it. Lots of fun. If you know me, you know I love making this mock draft content. I really do. It's my favorite. It's one of my favorite things to do, honestly. I could sit down for 3 hours in a day and just run mock draft after mock draft after mock draft after mock draft because it's so fun to me. Just all the possibilities are so endless. But I feel like I've been recording for like a smooth minute. So I hope this video isn't too long. It's probably about to be 45-ish minutes, I feel like. I don't know. I might be tripping. But again, I appreciate your support. I appreciate y'all watching. Should have a 7-round mock draft up next week. It might be an updated Steelers. I don't know yet. I'll figure it out. But I love y'all. I'll see y'all later. Peace.